Hey everyone, this is Karen Waksman, founder of Retail MBA. Today we're going to be talking about how much quantity a chain store buyer buys. If you have a great product and you want to sell to bigger retailers, but you're nervous about the quantity they're about to buy, this training will give you some things to think about in regards to that. With that said, let's get started on today's training. People always ask me, how much quantity does a chain store buyer buy? And a lot of you guys really want to know that because maybe you want to sell to stores, you want to get into the big chain stores, but you're freaked out because you're not sure whether or not you can handle their kind of volume and their quantity, right? So that's a really common question, and I totally get why you'd be concerned, because obviously you are going to be having to create your products and be able to provide that to the retailer. So you don't know whether or not it's time to do that or not. So here's how I answer this question. It's a tough one, right? Because every chain store is different, every product's different. I don't know whether or not you have the most phenomenal product in the world or a product that you're just getting started with. But here's something to consider. When a chain store buyer looks at a product and they think there's some viable interest there, that there's products going to make them money, basically, they are going to definitely at least test your product in their store, right? Because they want to make sure that the product does well during this test. So they'll probably test it in their top 50 markets or something like that, or maybe less depending on the product, or maybe more top 100 stores or top 20 stores. It really depends on the chain store, how big of the retailer that you're going after is. So one thing to consider is that they're going to test out your product first, and if your product does well during that test, then they will buy more quantities from you. So technically, a chain store can buy 10,000 units, 50,000 units, 100,000 units, a million units or more if your product just is amazing, right? And so that's something to think about in general, but initially during the test, they're going to start small. So they're not going to buy huge quantities from you. It could be a couple thousand pieces. I've had tests that are a couple hundred pieces, so it could be really small. It's just something to consider is that initially the first test, the first go around will probably be much smaller, and then in the future, if your product sells, then you want to make sure that you're able to give them additional products as your product sells and you can sell them in mass. The good news is, for those of you who are freaked out about selling in chain stores, you can start out with smaller test quantities and then you can grow from there. And there's a lot of ways to maneuver that and have conversations with buyers, and I talk about that in future segments. But it's just something to consider that you can start out smaller with the chain stores and then grow your business there once they know whether or not your product is going to sell in their stores. Don't panic. It's actually awesome to get a product into a store, and one chain store order can change your life completely. I've seen it happen to companies where they can just buy so many units, but initially they will start smaller. So I hope that makes you feel a bit better. It's Karen Waksman, Retail MBA. It's retailmba.com, and please be on the lookout for the additional videos that I create. Thanks.